All right. All right. Yeah. So, welcome back to another episode of the 300s podcast. And today we have a very big guest in John Karalis from Reds Army. Thanks for joining us, John. How's it going today?
It's going all right so far.
Well, again, we appreciate the time. And, obviously you're a jack of all trades, which I respect the hell out of. You got the website, you got the podcast, you got the video content. So why don't you give us a quick 30-second bio on yourself for anyone out there listening?
30 seconds.
Well, yeah, as much time as you need.
So I've been working in television. So I've been in TV now for almost 20 years. Jesus. And I've been doing Reds Army for, we started in 2007. So this is going to be our 12th year, I think. So I think that's right. Or maybe 2006. It's been so long. But yeah, so I do Reds Army. I do the Lockdown Celtics podcast. I've done TV for a long time. I mean, it's a lot. But generally broadcasting, writing, just content producing type of stuff. And I just love writing, talking about basketball.
Yeah. Now, in Reds Army is where I found you, and I know we've interacted on Twitter over the past few months, obviously. But Reds Army is where I see most of your work. Now, how did you get that started? Because I know you're one of the co-founders of that.
Yeah. So me and Chuck McKenney, my partner on the site, we were working at WBZ, and we were both producing overnight. So we'd get into work at like 11 p.m. and
Nice.
work until like 7 in the morning and produce the morning news. So, and we had gone to Emerson actually together. So I met Chuck in college, and then he was a year ahead of me. So he graduated. We played basketball together. He graduated, lost touch. And the next thing you know, I get this job at Channel 4. And he's there, like, oh, geez, all right, cool, man, how's it going? And so we were reading the Boston Dirt Dogs blog,
Yeah.
Red Sox blog, and loved it, just loved it. Just this fun, irreverent, Photoshop-filled kind of fun take on the Red Sox, and we just looked at each other and said, man, we should do this for the Celtics. And like we said it in jest at first, and they're like, wait a second, we should do this for the Celtics. And so we started, we said, all right, let's figure it out. Let's do it. And we started a blog, and we decided to call it Reds Army because we're trying to come up with a creative name. And, we said, okay, well, what's a Celtics fan? A Celtics fan is someone who basically follows Red Auerbach. Throughout the entirety of the Celtics history, we all follow Red, which means Reds are general, and we're members of Reds Army. And that's where we came up with redsarmy.com. So, and then at that point, we were just kind of screwing around, and before blogging software came around, and it was a very crude website, and
Yeah.
we just, I think the real moral of the story of Reds Army is it's just two guys who love talking about basketball and who are willing to sacrifice and give up all of our lives for the continued blogging, to maybe the detriment of certain relationships, but yeah, just a couple of guys who are too stupid to quit blogging about the Celtics.
And that's awesome because you said, you started in 06, 07. That's before really anyone was doing that. I know everyone's got a blog now. So that, I guess a question for you. I know you were a journalism guy too. How did you kind of get into the position where you said, all right, let's just do it ourselves? Because, you're working for the news, you're producing for it. Is it something where you would kind of said, let's build our own thing? Or is it more of just kind of like a creative outlet that kind of just turned into its own thing?
It was definitely the creative outlet that turned into its own thing. Because, at that point, blogs weren't so pervasive. They weren't everywhere. People were getting their stuff from, and it really was even the beginning of the internet age as far as content, like free content on the internet. Like at that point, Boston.com, for example, was basically the Globe. And it was newspapers were just putting their stuff out there. And there was no kind of I guess, what am I looking for? There was no kind of mainstream or very few mainstream kind of fan experience type of things. So we just kind of worked with it and said, you know, this is a fun thing to do. We love basketball. We're just gonna have fun with it. I love using Photoshop and making goofy things, and we'll put it out there. And I think my competitive juices were kind of stoked by that. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I want it to be good, and I want people to read it. I want people to see it. And I just started promoting the hell out of it, where, you know, message boards back then were big. Yeah. You know, and we're just a place to kind of promote things. And I think as the site grew, I realized that it wasn't just going to be some goofy thing that we did. It was going to be something that, well, all right, if people are reading, let's get into what's happening in the games. Let's recap these games. Let's tell people what we see. And people just kept on coming. Right. Yeah, so that's kind of the genesis of it all.
It's funny because you're talking about, you know, the old school Boston blogs. You talk about the message boards. I'm remembering back in the day, I think it was, what was it, Sons of Sam Horn. You had Kurt Schilling getting in there with the muck with everybody.
Oh, yeah. Sons of Sam. That was a fun one, too, man. Yeah, those were the days, man. Everybody had, like, nowadays, like, WordPress exists. WordPress didn't exist back then.
Right.
You know, back then it was like message boards. Like, everybody had a board where you had, like, you go to it and you had all your different topics. And, you know, we had one connected to our site because that's what everybody did. And that's how people commented. People wanted the conversation. And, you know, that was basically pre-Twitter or at least pre-Twitter kind of being what it was, what it is. So, yeah, man, all those things, I think really ultimately what it boils down to is it was all just a way for fans to kind of have a conversation with one another and just enjoy basketball in a way that wasn't kind of being enjoyed back then.
Yeah, so I mean, you grew that pretty much entirely organically, right? Like doing the message boards. It's not like you were, you know, out there running billboards or anything. So that's even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slow grind of just being out there and talking to people, and I think just kind of, for lack of a better term, just being part of the community. And when you're an active member of the community and you're just kind of like, you know, BSing with people, they get to like you. Like you become friends with people and they say, oh, you know, I like this guy. If you like what I'm writing, if you like reading what I'm saying, that's one thing. But then if you like interacting with me too, on top of it, you get a feeling of like, hey, not only do I enjoy the content, but this is a pretty decent person as far as I know. You know, I don't let people know all of my warts, but, you know, just enough for them to like me and to keep reading. But yeah, it's an organic thing. It's just like, you know, anything. You start putting it out there. It's almost like, you know, if you're a beer drinker and if you go to like a craft brewery, it's very much like opening up a craft brewery on some corner where you have, you know, a couple of beers on tap and people are like, oh yeah, man, I kind of dig those beers. And, you know, I like the guys who are making that beer. I'm going to go hang out in that tap room. And then you tell your friends and they come out, you're like, oh, I like that beer too. And yeah, these guys are cool. And, you know, it grows and eventually you start canning and you start shipping and next thing you know, you become Sam Adams. And that's what we're kind of trying to be. Like, we're trying to become that organically kind of big, like, hey, you know, we loved you from the beginning and you're still kind of doing your thing and you're not compromising yourselves. And that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Well, that's a great analogy because, you know, everyone in college, you're drinking, you know, cheap Bush Light,
Natty
Keystone,
Lights.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
whatever
Been
trash
there.
you're drinking. And then, I told myself I'm never going to be a beer snob. And then you get a little bit older, you start sitting down, trying some IPAs, and then you find a local brewery, like, this is pretty good. And before you know it, you're dropping $80 getting fancy beers.
Yep. Oh yeah, man. I was just in I'm gonna shout them out. They're not paying me to do it, but the Mystic
Okay,
Brewery
yeah.
in,
Yeah, yeah.
in Chelsea, and super super cool. And I walked in and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. Dropped $40 on a growler, like not even out of question, no questions at all. I'll be at at some store, be like, I don't know, $12 for a 6-pack, I don't know, but at a cool place like that, I'm like, $40? No problem. I'm in, man.
I get the fancy growler. I mean,
Yeah, man.
I try and tell myself that it all evens out because instead of drinking, 60 cheap beers, I'm just drinking a few expensive ones.
60?
So I think it evens out in the long run. You get to tell yourself you're drinking something a little bit nicer, and you get to meet some cool guys.
It's totally true. I mean, you can seriously you can pound Bud Lights till whatever, and it's fine. It has its place,
Yeah.
but when I'm on my deck and just kind of chilling out, I want something with some body to it, some flavor to it. I'm not drinking it with a purpose. I'm not drinking it to get stupid drunk. I'm like,
Right.
I'm just having like 2-3 beers to kind of chill on a nice autumn day. Sitting there by the river, like that's a cool thing to do and have some pretty cool nice full flavored beers with more than 2% alcohol.
Now it is getting a little bit cooler. Are you a pumpkin beer guy or no?
I do like pumpkin beers. Yes, I'm big on the October beers, but I like all kinds of beers. It's funny when I was I'll say I started drinking in high school like everybody else.
It's okay. We can admit it.
Yeah, sure. But I didn't like beer back then. And in fact, I hated it. So I started when I started out, it was like hard liquor. I guess because I'm Greek and we go for the hard stuff first.
There you go.
But when you get to college and then after college you just taste change. And when I was in Greece, they didn't have like Bud Lights. They basically had Heineken and Amstel. Not even Amstel Light, just Amstel. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to drink this stuff, I better get used to it. And then next thing you know, you start drinking like different kinds of beers. You start realizing like the porters and the stouts are not harsh. Like you go and you get like a Guinness and you say, oh my God, that's like black. It's like motor oil. I don't want to drink that. But you know what? To me, like if somebody who doesn't like beer wants to drink a beer, I'll give them a Guinness first before I give them anything else because it's not bitter. It's got a smoothness. It's got like a chocolatey kind of sweetness to it. And it's not for everybody, but so anyway, my point is I like all kinds of beers now. I'm big. My favorite kinds of beers are wheat beers, but I like a good IPA is good. Problem is that everybody wants to make an IPA and they just jam hops into a bottle, and it's like, if you jam enough hops into a bottle, you cover up the fact that you're making a terrible beer. So you gotta make an IPA the right way and make it good. So I'm down with that. I think Arrogant Bastard is my favorite IPA.
That's a good one. I've had that. Yep.
And of course I just like the name, just fits. But yeah, anything like now in the fall, I like the pumpkin beers. Sam Adams makes a cherry wheat that I love.
My brother had cherry wheat on tap at his wedding.
Oh, that's so good. It's so good. Like you can't drink more than I think 3 or 4 of those at a time.
Yeah.
Like it's not something you're gonna get messed up on, but it's for like I said, a nice autumn night. Like if I'm sitting there and somebody's got a fire going and I got a cherry wheat in my hand, like that's cool. Like I
That's a good night, man.
That's a good night.
Well, the only rule I had was I'm a big pumpkin guy. Not while I'm sweating. So week 1, it was still 90 degrees out. We got to wait a couple weeks, guys.
Right. Yeah. The thing about Sam, like, and everybody puts out their seasonals, like, it was still August, and like Sam Summer was not on tap anymore. I'm like, well, come on. Like,
I know you got to go like on expeditions and try and find them before they put them away for the season.
Right. No, so that's a good rule. Not while I'm sweating. That's a good one. I like that.
All right. So, I know you played ball at Emerson, and you mentioned living in Greece.
Yeah.
So take me through that. How did you go from Emerson? Because, it's a great school, but it's not necessarily Duke.
Not a
How did you go?
basketball school, no.
Yeah. So how did you go from that to playing pro ball in Greece? That's awesome.
Thank you. My college coach, Hank Smith, who now works for the Thunder, he basically knew a guy, and he put me in touch with him and said, like, an agent, and he said, look, he believed in my abilities, and he said, hey, check this guy out, and the guy said, yeah, I know some teams that could use you, and he brought me over. Emerson, when I got to Emerson, we were like losing games to the Mass College of Pharmacy. Like that's bad, like really, really bad, and it was essentially a glorified intramural program. When I was in high school, I was recruited for mostly Division III, some Division II schools. And I decided to go to Emerson, which didn't even, like I said, their basketball program was so bad. There was no recruiting. I went there because I knew I wasn't going to Duke. I wasn't going to Syracuse. I wasn't going to be, an NBA player. Mm-hmm. So I said, a practical matter. I was like, I want to go and study and go for my career. I turned down other schools. Like at that point, Wheaton and Eastern Connecticut State were the two, like I think they were both top 5 Division III schools in New England. They were ranked like 2 and 4 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have the programs that I wanted. I could have gone there and played basketball and maybe gotten a little bit more exposure. But again, it's Division III. So, I wasn't going to go play with Grant Hill. So, I had a self-awareness. But, as Emerson kind of progressed, they changed coaches, changed the focus, and everybody who was involved with the basketball program was very serious about making the program really good. And then my junior year, we won most improved team in New England. And we became, we joined a league, a conference, and eventually they started winning championships. Like they became a legitimate Division III program. So, Hank Smith, the coach, gets a ton of the credit there. I had some awesome teammates, and a few guys have since gone pro in Europe. So I was the first. I was the first in school history. I'll toot my own horn there.
You got to get that framed. Put that on the wall, man.
Got to put that out there. I was the first in school history to go pro, but since then, I think we've had like 4 or 5 guys go and play overseas. Again, not like EuroLeague, but
sure.
But when you get paid to play basketball,
that's the dream, man.
That's pretty good. And I had a little bit of fun getting paid to play basketball. But it wasn't long. It didn't last long at all. But I ended up getting hurt. But it was still a fun experience, and it was great, man. I just loved it.
Emerson's, it's a sneaky little hotbed for basketball. Didn't Sam Presti come out of Emerson too?
Sam Presti, Rob Hennigan, Will Dawkins is another guy that people don't know yet necessarily, but now all 3 of them work for the Thunder. But yeah, Sam Presti, when I had graduated and I'd come back from Greece, and Sam was there playing. And I'd go back and practice with those guys. Rob Hennigan is the best player in Emerson College history. Rob Hennigan was a baller. And let me tell you something. I guarantee you he was a better shooter than half the players that he had on his roster when he was the GM of the Magic. He can shoot the hell out of the ball. I would put my money on Hennigan as like in a 3-point contest against like half the league.
Just put him in the corner, let him go.
Yeah. I'd take him over Ben Simmons.
Ben Simmons. Yeah, I mean, he's got a little bit of work to do, but yeah. So 2018, as we all know, there's not really a ton of those full-time sports reporter jobs where you go in, you cover the game, you have a cigar, you go home. So like a lot of people, you're doing a little bit of everything. You're doing the podcast, you're doing the website, I saw you did some video content for Fox as well. So how did you wind up in New York working, as a reporter for them or a producer for them?
Yeah. So, in 2010, it was kind of a wild year for me. I lost my job at BZ and split up with my wife. And all within the span of like 6 or 7 months. And I was like, okay, what now? And so I saw that as a kind of reset button. You know, when you're playing a Nintendo and the game is just beating the hell out of you. You're like, screw this. You throw the controller, you hit the reset button, you start over.
Yep.
I basically did that with my life. Life was beating me at the moment. I said, screw this. I hit the reset button, and I said, I'm going to move to New York. I'd stayed in New England. I was born and raised in Rhode Island. Obviously, I went to school in Boston and had worked in Boston for a long time. And I said, you know what? I've been around here for a while. I never really left aside from that little stint in Greece. Mm-hmm. Which is where I have family there. I was like, it's time for me to kind of go. I gotta go. And so I had a friend who kind of called me up coincidentally and said, he had lived in New York. Jeff Garcia, he does the Locked On Spurs podcast. Mm-hmm. And we had been friends for a while, and he's like, oh, come on, hang out with me in New York. So I did, and I'm like, you know what, this is actually pretty cool. I'd grown up, being a Boston guy, you're like, man, screw New York, man. Yankee suck chance and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't want to go to New York. Why the hell would I go to New York? And then I got to New York, and I'm like, you know what? The city is actually really, really cool. I hate the sports teams, but the city's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so, man, you can go all day and night. I was there a couple weeks ago, and it's just, you forget how big it is until you get in there, and you're like, it really is 20 times the size of Boston. It's crazy.
Oh, my God. It's ridiculous. And it makes you appreciate what Boston is. The one thing so I knew Boston kind of had a little bit of an inferiority complex when it came to New York. What's so good about New York? But the fact is, New York is a different animal. It's just completely different. And having lived in New York now for 8 years, I can appreciate what New York is and how different it is. And what Boston is and how different Boston is, and that Boston is just as great as New York, but a completely different thing. It's like New York is a 10 and Boston is a 5 and 5-1. It's just different, but it all works out to be the same. So, I got to New York and I've had some contacts that I'd worked with in Boston, and I just kind of call people up. I'm like, hey, you got a spot for me at your station? And we had a great relationship in Boston. They're like, yeah, come hang out, come work with us. And I slowly kind of worked my way up, started producing at Channel 5 in New York City here, and started saying, hey, I'd like to do some on-air stuff. And they said, okay, if you can give us something that you think you could do well, then we'll give you a shot. So the first thing I did was, I'm going to go to this sneaker convention because I'm a big sneaker guy. I'm like, I
saw
can do the
that,
sneaker thing. And they're like, okay, yeah, do the sneaker thing. And it worked. You basically get one shot. It's like a tryout.
Yeah.
And it went well. And they're like, okay, anytime you want to pitch something and you think you can do it, then we'll try it. And so I've done a few things. And yeah, they basically very open-minded and not like thinking, oh, you're not a reporter. Like you didn't start reporting in Des Moines, Iowa, and working your way up. Like if you're good on air, then you're good on air, and if you can tell a good story, then we want to put a good story on TV. It's just like basketball. If you can play, it doesn't matter that you didn't play. Like if I just walk in off the street and walk up into the Celtics practice facility and be like, I'm a better player than half those guys, and if they let me prove it, then it didn't matter that I didn't go to college. It didn't matter that I didn't get drafted. They'd be like, damn, this guy just walked in and is pretty good. And it's basically that type of thing. So I'm very lucky to have had some very open-minded people in New York here give me an opportunity, and I think it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, talent wins out, and if you don't raise your hand and ask for something, they're not going to give it to you, right?
That's it. That is what it all boils down to. If you think you can do something, then go do it. And don't wait for somebody to kind of discover you. Go put it out there. And the more you put it out there, that's when people will find you. But you got to go do it. You got to go say, hey, I can do this, and prove it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like that's, especially, this day and age where, so I graduated college, 2011, and that was we were kind of starting to come out of the recession, but that was really the start of newsroom jobs getting killed off. So,
Oh, yeah.
me and all my journalism friends are going, oh shit, what are we going to do now? So,
Yes.
you're looking around, like your best bet really is just kind of, get a job doing whatever and then start doing your own thing and then try to just put that stuff out there.
That's it. Like that, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. It's that there aren't a lot of jobs that are going to kind of just present themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's very much like the sports that we cover. There aren't a lot of positions. There's the Globe, there's the Herald, there's Mass Live, and some of the other like local newspapers. But that's it. And
right.
if you're saying you want to write, you're just going to sit around forever waiting for like Mark Murphy to retire. And
yeah.
and I like Mark. Mark's great. He shouldn't retire.
Yeah. Why are you going to give that job up? Right.
Right. If you enjoy what you're doing, keep doing it. But for me, I'm like, well, I can't sit around and wait for somebody else to get a job and hope. Like, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself. And luckily in 2018, there are opportunities for people to make money. If you're good and you've got that following, there's an opportunity to make some money and kind of do this on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you're moving back to Boston. I'm going to plug that for you before we go. But I got to pick your brain on Celtics, man.
Yeah.
So how do you see them finishing this season? You think they're going to be a legit title threat, or you think it's still too soon with Golden State looming? I heard Kyrie, he had a few quotes coming out yesterday saying they're asking him, you think you guys can beat Golden State? And he's very definitively saying yes. And I like to, I'd like to think he's right because, the couple matchups we've seen with Golden State over the past couple of years, the Celtics have done great. But I don't know. What do you think? You think it's too early, or you think now's the time?
I think, well, look, now's the time because this is the team that they have. Like, there's just, you're not going to wait any longer. You're not going to sit there and be like, well, Golden State's really good, so whatever. Like, no, the Celtics are maybe the second best team in the NBA. So now's the time to go for it. And all it takes is Steph Curry turning an ankle or something. And I'm not hoping for an injury. I don't want anybody to get hurt. But injuries happen. We saw that last season with the Celtics.
Yeah.
There's always some possibility of something going wrong for the other team. It could be as simple as they're too complacent, Golden State, and they try to flip a switch and it doesn't flip.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be something like DeMarcus Cousins is too disruptive, or the chemistry is just off, and whatever. It could just be that the Celtics have the right pieces to counteract what Golden State has. Like, if a cobra bites you, you're going to die. But if there's an antidote, and there is an antidote, then you will survive. There's always an antidote. The Warriors are the cobra. They're the poisonous snake that anything that comes across their path, they're going to die. But the Celtics are the antidote. Or maybe a mongoose is a better example. Like that scrappy little thing. Like, there's always something. There's always something that can take on that one deadly predator. Like, that's where the Celtics, I think, fit. They have people, they have players in the places that can kind of counteract what the Warriors do well. And if the Warriors are playing their best, then they're the better team. And if they're fully healthy and they're playing at 100% efficiency and they're playing at 100% effort, they're the better team. No one's going to dispute that. Question is, will they be there? Will they be 100% healthy, and will they be 100% motivated? And if they're not, and the Celtics take game one of a series, if they get to the finals, then shit changes fast. And it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And if the Warriors get punched in the mouth, then what happens? How do they respond?
Mm-hmm.
And the Celtics have a team like the Rockets did last year that can punch the Warriors in the mouth. And injuries aside, we can go back and forth about what happened with that Rockets series, but the Celtics have a team that can punch the Warriors in the mouth and that can really give them a challenge. And if they do face each other in the finals, it's going to be a damn good series.
Yeah, because I mean, you're right. As great as the Warriors have been the last few years, they've been so good that they've been on cruise control for a long time. And you saw it last year with that series with the Rockets, where they started getting pushed around a little bit, and they almost lost. If it wasn't for that Chris Paul injury, they might have not even made it. So you get a Celtics squad that matches up better with them than probably any team in the league, and they can start creating some problems for them. I mean,
Absolutely.
I was reading I think it was Zach Lowe the other day, and he was saying, let me see. So he said, this quintet is the most exciting group since Golden State stumbled into the death lineup. So you got, Kyrie, Jalen, Tatum, Hayward, and Horford, and almost every guy in that starting five can switch on to almost any other guy on the other team. So that's going to be exciting to watch, and that's something that could give the Warriors a bunch of problems.
Absolutely. This is a Celtics team that is built for today's NBA. You've got 5 starters who can all legitimately be 40% three-point shooters, which is insane. To start 5 guys that can all shoot 40% from 3, like that is just I don't think people are really appreciating that simple fact alone. How do you guard a team that can start 5 guys that shoot that well? Meanwhile, at the same time, Al Horford is a defensive beast who last season was the best defensive player on the best defensive team. And a bunch of guys who can switch, which is the most important quality in today's NBA defensively. That is a special mix. And you got to give Danny Ainge the credit for putting this team together.
It's incredible.
It's really just having the foresight. He's gotten a lot of shit. And over the years, people have been kind of critical. And I know I get the biggest criticism of me has been I've kind of been people call me one of the green teamers. When I'm battling Gary Tanguay and all of those guys, I get called the green teamer. But I think with this team, as we see them currently constituted, I think that's my vindication. That the reason I've been so pro Danny Ainge is this is what he's been building. I've seen this team coming, and you start seeing oh, okay, I get it. I get the Al Horford thing. I get why you go so. Did they overpay for Al Horford? Yeah, sure. A little bit, because that's how you get a free agent. You overpay. Yeah. If they had offered Al Horford, you say, well, he's not worth, 20 million, 20 whatever. He's worth 15 million. Okay. But if you had offered him 15 million, he would have just stayed in Atlanta. Right. You have to overpay a guy to lure a free agent. Every single free agent, unless it's LeBron, who gets max money and you can only offer him max money, every other free agent gets overpaid. People need to understand that.
Especially as you get guys aging. Kobe was at the end of his career making $40 million a year.
Right. But when you want to get a guy, you have to give him something his current team isn't going to give him. So anyway, putting this team together has been, I think, I understood where they were going. And at first, you get this so many wings. What are they doing with so many wings? And you start to see okay, positionless basketball starts to creep into your lexicon, and you start to say, all right, I get it. Now, if you have these 4 guys who are, or 3 guys who are all 6'8", then you can switch every pick and roll, and now you've got that makes you one hell of a defensive team. It's just a genius way that this team has been put together. At some point, Danny Ainge's luck is going to run out, at some point he's going to make a mistake. He almost made a mistake with the Justice Winslow pursuit.
What was that? 3 or 4 first-round picks he was offering?
He was basically going to offer the whole farm, everything for Justice Winslow, which is
that guy's a bum now.
Right. I mean, he's good. He's okay. But Danny Ainge was like willing to bet it all on Justice Winslow. He got lucky, and that's part of building a good team. You got to get lucky sometimes. He got lucky on that, and I think he understands that he got lucky, and that's why he's so shrewd now. Like, I think he was scared straight, and that's why like he didn't trade Terry Rozier last year or 2 years ago, and all that stuff. So I think it's just amazing how he's put this team together, and also amazing that he's gotten some luck along the way at the same time.
Well, that's why Ainge has been so fascinating to watch over the years, because you remember a couple of years back, probably right before Isaiah Thomas got to town, he was wheeling and dealing around the trade deadline. He made like 20 moves. You had the Chris Humphrey days. You had guys coming in for a week and then shipping them back out. And now he's kind of starting to settle into really getting that team that he wants to see, and not making moves. Like you said, the Terry Rozier, people were going crazy. So people are going nuts before because Danny's making too many moves. And then people are going crazy because he won't trade a guy like Terry Rozier for a rental in Serge Ibaka. And then Terry Rozier, according to ESPN now, is a top 100 player in the league. So it's just like, it's been fascinating to watch him. Like, obviously, he stumbled into a couple of things, but even just the poker face he has when he pretty much tricked the Sixers into taking Fultz at once so he can trade down and get Tatum. Like, that might be the best move he's ever made besides maybe the Nets pick.
Yeah. I mean, look, it takes, how do I say this? I'm a big believer in you make your own luck, which means you put yourself in a position that when an opportunity presents itself, you can take advantage of it. Like, you can be what people on the outside say, oh man, that's lucky. It's not necessary. It could be just a random luck, but really in reality, what it mostly is you have worked to a point where when that door opens, you can walk through it. And Danny Ainge put himself in a position when Brooklyn happened. Brooklyn was lucky. At the same time, he was great at his job. But we got to understand that it was lucky. It's the circumstances were there for him to take advantage of a lucky break. That Prokhorov came in and bought the team. And Prokhorov was so hell-bent on beating the Knicks and owning New York that he told Billy King that you go get me a championship-level team. And that just so happened to coincide with the end of the Big Three era, at a time where Celtics fans understood, okay, trading Garnett and Pierce makes sense. And at the same time, it was at a time where Billy King was just trying to hold on to his job. So all of those things, the timing worked out. And then Danny Ainge made his own luck. The timing was right, and he said, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity. And he pushed for that deal. And then on top of that, Rick Grossbeck came in and said, make it a better deal. Like, Danny Ainge was ready to settle for a certain deal, and Rick Grossbeck came in and said, no, I want another pick. And Danny's like, all right. And then he pushed for it, and they said, yeah, sure. And so there was even more luck involved with that, because Rick Grossbeck was the type of person to say, you know what, let's try this. And
right.
He said, okay, let's do it. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. Like, I was a big Isaiah Thomas guy.
Yeah.
But if you look at, like, the injury was worse than I thought, and Kyrie wanted out at the right time, and just so happened that, and it sucks. It's, from a business perspective, it was great. Sucks from a Boston perspective, from a fan perspective, because I love Isaiah Thomas. Like,
yeah. Isaiah was incredible to watch, and that's why every once in a while you got to shut the sports radio off, because you get people trashing the guy. It's like, he was incredible for 6 months, and everyone loved him. He was dropping 50 points a game. So to see him go was tough. But bringing in Kyrie Irving, objectively speaking, he's a better player and it's a better fit. So it was hard to see, but Danny's doing the right thing, and he's been incredible to watch, because it's just been kind of like in the same way Belichick works, where basically you're just acquiring different picks, you're moving around, you're giving yourself the opportunity when you said that lucky move does become available.
Yeah. So, look, the timing's worked out. Everything's come up roses for him. And at some point that luck's going to run out. It's going to go away. And the Celtics someday will have to rebuild. Luckily, it's not going to be for a while.
Yeah,
assuming that they stay healthy, like it's really been kind of an amazing thing to watch the way he's rebuilt this team because
on the fly.
Yeah. Last year was a rebuilding year. Like that was supposed to be a rebuilding year and they got to the conference finals and damn near won the thing. And to have like so many young guys, to have a Jason Tatum and a Jaylen Brown there to be parts of your future. And nobody is really talking about this. They have potentially 4 first-round picks in the upcoming draft.
Yeah, they're gonna have guys drafted in the top 20 playing in Maine.
Right. Like they have all of these potentially great assets, and where are they going to play? What space do they have for these guys? But they could have 3 picks in the top 15 if everything goes perfectly. Like that's amazing. That's amazing for a team that is a finals contender to have 3 potential top 15 picks, potentially the second pick in the draft. Like, come on.
This is like when an NBA 2K or in the old Madden days, you turn off fair trades and you can just make whatever trades you want.
Yeah. Setting is on easy. You turn that setting off. It's like whatever, and you just go dominate. Like that. It's been a great run. It's been a great run. It's a great time to be a Celtics fan. I'm not looking forward to whenever it all goes away, but luckily it's probably not going to be, if everything goes the way it's supposed to, it's probably not going to be for like another 10 years.
Well, it's going to be exciting to watch. And so you're coming back to town at the perfect time. Now, I know you've got what's your next big move? I know I've seen the Patreon.com. I've seen you tweet about it. Tell us about where people can find you and how they can get the best Celtics coverage in town.
So you can follow me on Twitter at RedsArmy_John. That's the best place to get all of my stuff because I'm a tweeting maniac, first of all. And that's where I'm going to promote all of my stuff. So I'll continue writing for Boston.com. I've worked something out and I'm going to be doing more for Boston.com this upcoming season. So you'll see a lot of my stuff there. I have the Patreon, patreon.com/John Karalis, and I will do subscription stuff there. That is going to be a work in progress. Like I need to kind of figure out, I don't want to overpromise because I want to make sure I deliver it, but it's $2 a month. It's just $2 a month. If you've got an extra $2 a month, then, that'd be awesome if you could subscribe to that. I will do extended video breakdowns of plays. I'm going to get into like college scouting. I haven't done a lot of college stuff, but I'm going to put like my scout's eye on and start looking at the upcoming draft and give scouting reports of the players that the Celtics could be targeting. So I will do that. I will have whatever in-depth, maybe more long-form type of stuff on my subscription service there. I will use redsarmy.com for like my daily kind of beat writing sort of thing. So you will still get free content on redsarmy.com. You'll still get to follow the Celtics, and I will be your beat reporter there. I'll do a lot of writing there for free. And then, of course, the Locked On Celtics podcast, Locked On NBA podcast, and I'm hopefully working on another podcast with the Locked On Network that it's still kind of in the works. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but there's going to be, I think, a third podcast for me to do. So I'm going to be busy, but I'm going to be doing it all, and I'm coming back to Boston to do it all. I'm giving up my job in New York City to do it, so I hope people can appreciate that and help me out as I get to this new endeavor.
Yeah, the hardest working man in town. And $2 a month. Come on, guys. We spend more than that on a coffee. So let's support John and all his new stuff. So that's awesome. We'll throw that link up so people can find that and hopefully drive some more people your way. And best of luck when you're moving back to Boston, man. We look forward to seeing you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And I just want to say thanks again for joining us on the 300s podcast. Appreciate the time. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, Sean. We'll see you soon. Have a good one. All right.
All right, see ya.